Hello, Dr. Banerjee. Hi,
Yes.
viewers.
Hello. Hi, everybody, all friends and poetry lovers and poets all over the world.
Sangeeta here, back with the 24th episode of the limited video series of literary and critical conversations. Today, we have a wonderful guest with us, Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee, who is a writer, critic, educationist, and an outstanding vocalist. On behalf of Setu, I extend a hearty welcome to her.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
She has carved a niche for herself. However, a brief bio is contextually relevant here for our dear viewers. Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee is a multiple award-winning poet, author, literary critic, educationist, senior academic, and practicing radio and TV vocalist with several national and international publications, assignments, and awards to her credit. She is an internationally recognized poet, Fulbright scholar, Commonwealth scholar, Asian Society Scholar, and National Scholar from the Calcutta University, a UGC postdoctoral research awardee and former Vice Chancellor and Pro Vice Chancellor of Kolhan University, Eastern India. As a university professor of English and Cultural Studies, Dr. Banerjee has lectured and recited in premier universities of the world. She has taught in prestigious universities of Florida, Maryland, Copenhagen, Aarhus, London, Paris, Cambridge, Toronto, to name a few. She has 11 books of Indian English poetry and more than 100 academic publications, including books and research papers in diverse areas of literature and culture. As a senior grade radio and TV artist, she has performed on radio, TV, and stage, giving of Hindustani classical, semi-classical recitals, and varied genre of Indian ethno music across India and the globe. Among her several awards, a few need special mention. Asian Literary Society Women Achievers Award, Connoisseur of Literary Arts of Asia and Tunisia Award, Sahitya Academy's Avishkar Honor as a scholar, artist, and poet-musician. The prestigious UGC Postdoctoral Research Award for her path-breaking work on comparative studies of world women poets and many other awards over the years. An active Rotarian, a senior board member of the University of Innsbruck, Austria, and a nominee of the Indian Rashtrapati on several central university boards, Dr. Banerjee is passionate about using the potency of her pen and voice for social transformations, international peace, and goodwill. With this, I extend a hearty welcome to her for the 24th episode of the limited video series of literary and critical conversations. Welcome, Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee.
Thank you, Sangeeta. I hope you can hear me, and very kind of you for all those appreciative words. Thank you very much.
These are all your achievements. So I congratulate you for all that you have done till now. So let's begin the conversation with a poetry recitation. Would you like to read a poem of yours?
Yes. Uh, this is my latest 11th book of poems.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Dust Decked Rainbow Quills, which has just in January, been launched at the International Kolkata Book Fair, which is supposed to be the largest book fair of the world,
I see.
and also at the Kolkata prestigious literary meet, Tata Literary Meet in the Victoria
Mhm.
Memorial grounds. Both were very prestigious. I was really humbled and honored, of course. And from this book, I must mention, is dedicated to who I call Jayantoda, people's poet and Padma Shri, Jayant Mahapatra, who just has passed away and left behind a huge void and vacuum in
Mhm.
our poetic and literary scene of Indian English compositions. So there are two small poems which I would like to read, because the first one is the dedicating poem to Padma Shri Jayant Mahapatra in his memory, because this is the book which I've dedicated to him. This is
Mhm.
my latest book. So it's called
Yeah.
People's Poet. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. People's Poet Jayant Mahapatra in fond memory. Jayantoda, you carried the human soul tenderly on your back like a fond father, your arms cradling the body of life, the softness of smiles and aches with your ever moist love. You made nothing of nothingness,
Mhm.
encased, you made nothing of nothingness, encased sorrows in your coffers of blazing vermilion sunshine. Your scorched self could still hold the incandescence of 1,000 lamps. Your memories have deep, your memories heave deep within our interstices, lighthouses of the sea of being, spirals of holy incense, rising slowly in upward motion to your milky translucence of a child blessed sagacity, hunger in the whiteness of bones, the famished fishermen caught in nets of the Orisha seas, helpless puberty sold, helpless puberty sold for morsels of bread,
Mhm.
blessed through the sieve of your heart. Woes, your metamorphed poetic floods. Woes or sorrows, your metamorphosed poetic floods. Undercurrents tranquil in ocean floors. Awaken our slumbering selves. So much of you and your poetry, your vision and effusion, still to be nurtured. The wild search for anchor, the wild search for anchor, those dim lights you chose,
Mhm.
sitting in a nook of the amphitheater to avoid meaningless glitz, the speaking silence of your self-chosen dignity of darkness. All of it, your treasure troves, burning inside so often in the calm of your cherry pain, leavening our shredded soul. Your wincing butterflies wing through our ambrosial manna, those we can hardly catch or know. Though your cataracts flow,
Mhm.
so much of you remains unknown in your abode of peace, shorn of the meaningless frills and trappings, you so shunned and spurned. You carry breezily your knapsack into the silence of eternity. Rest, dear, our people's poet. Rest in peace in Tinkonia Bagicha of Katak, our shrine where we still find you. That's my poem for Jayanta
Such
Mahapatra.
a soulful tribute to the great poet Jayanta Mahapatra.
And
Feel
because
it.
this is on literature and my poetry, which I started publishing, not writing, publishing almost 38 years ago. So this is called Mirror. It
Mhm.
is my love with poetry, which is a very short poem, but it actually brings you to my introduction to my passion for both poetry and music,
Your signature style poem.
two sides of the same coin. Poetry knocked suddenly at my door and tiptoed in as I unbolted my clogged heart and all its latches. Soon the tangles were unknotted, the jigsaws became kaleidoscopes, dead leaves sprung back to life. He came in as my mature Cupid with arrows, glistening, glistening in a carnival of colors, non definable, yet wise like the morn.
Mhm.
Poetry entered. Poetry entered in resonant whispers of the wrenching hooves of his white steed, with clouds, corals, pearls in his swipe, golden, breezy, and momentous in sunshine and the twinkling glow of alert stars and moons as he reawakened me to the flush of my youth. Poetry came and went like the lightning, robust in fire feathers of touch, robust in fire feathers of touch, a sudden fireball of water, a sudden fireball of water to allay the knife, gleaming in love and mirror, a terror of life.
Very interesting poem. Beautiful. Well, so you please at the outset tell us about the important phases of your life and some very important influences on you.
Well, I'll start with my childhood. Our family in Kolkata was a very, I should say, somewhat like many of the, what word should I use? The cultured families of Kolkata with a
Mhm.
lot of cultural ambience. And so I grew up with a lot of, you know, musical soirees in my home, writers' meets, poetry readings,
Uh-huh.
and poets and writers coming to my house, artists and singers singing in my house. So
Oh,
from a very early age, I think I started writing poetry just around four, maybe at the age of four or something. I would scribble.
that's too early.
Yes, I remember because my mother would say that, she would collect those, two, three lines of, but then as I hear, they were like, my daughter has also done that at a very early age. Two, three, four lines, which can, you know, show the, just like the morning shows the day, that kind of thing. And my mother, who was very cultured and educated, she would collect those pieces of paper and store them. And another thing which I remember, that I started playing harmonium also at that age without
Hmm.
learning it. Nobody taught
Four
me.
is too young a age.
4 or 5, it can't be more than that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
I
were
start.
exposed to rich literary influences right from your childhood.
And cultural influences also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. So you are a multiple award-winning writer, critic, and educationist. Which award is the closest to your heart and why?
Well, as you know, all of us say the same thing, that, whether poetry or essays or awards, they're all my children. So you cannot say this child is better for the other. But still, I think the most the awards which really catch my imagination is, of course, my postdoctoral, very prestigious research award, not a
Mm,
fellowship.
mhm,
It was a postdoctoral research award for my postdoctoral work on comparative studies of world women poetry
mhm,
for literary and cultural mappings. And that took me for 3 years. They gave me full salary and my award money. So
mhm,
it took me across the globe, and I met many women poets of the world. So in
mhm.
that sense, the UGC Postdoctoral Research Award was very good because it gave me a lot of exposure. So did the Senior Fulbright Award, which took me again to quite a few American universities. And of course, 2021, of all the awards, there are quite a few, but I will think of my first Lifetime Achievement Award, which was
Okay,
given to me, first instituted by the Significant League, and I was the first awardee in 2021.
okay.
So I got the first Rural International Lifetime Achievement Award for art and literature from the Significant League, and I think they do very well in terms of respecting, actually, merit and talent without
Mm,
going into any other areas. Like these days there are so many kinds of awards
yeah.
which I would never like to
Mm,
be offered or take.
mhm,
But this is one of those which one, and the other one also is a Lifetime Achievement Award, which I got in 2023 from a very huge group in Kolkata called Literoma Laureate Lifetime Achievement Award. So these two also mean a lot more. I mean, almost like the Senior Fulbright Award and the Commonwealth Award. I can say like that. It's very difficult. So I tried to.
yeah, so wonderful. Um, you are a gold medalist in Masters in Music from Prayag Sangeet Samiti, Allahabad University. That's a great achievement. So tell us about this aspect of your rich career in life and what got you interested in music.
Firstly, my mother, who was, I use, my tanpura. I don't have it here. It's in my other room.
Mhm,
So I have two tamburas, one which is mine and the other which I've inherited from my mother. She used to sing beautifully,
mhm,
but she never took it up as a profession. But she used to sing bhajans and all in religious ceremonies, and she was quite a I mean, she was a very fashionable lady, but she was also a very spiritual lady, a very religious lady. So
mhm,
that kind of music, it went on and on. So it was my mother, of course. And then I started playing the harmonium all by myself. And then, of course, the tutors started coming in. And
mhm,
then I actually, I remember one incident. Again, I was very young. This was you have heard of the Dover Lane Music Conference in Calcutta? It's one
mhm,
of the very prestigious music conference. So in Dover Lane, we also had the Bengal Music College,
mhm.
and my guru from the Agra Gharana was Pandit S.S. Ratan Jankar, who used to
Okay.
come from Bombay
Mm,
once only
mm.
every month to Kolkata.
I see.
And I was hardly, I think, 8 or 9 years old, and there were senior artists there taking, lessons from Guru and Pandit ji. And suddenly he saw this little girl in this Doverland Bengal Music College, and he said, "ये क्या कर रही है? गाना सुनने के लिए बैठो baby, बैठो." Something like he thought that I had come to listen to all these maestros who are
Mm,
taking lessons from him. But then my Pandit ji, He said, नहीं गुरुजी, ये तो सीखने के लिए आई है.
Acha.
And he got a shock. He said, and he was also quite annoyed,
Mm.
that I had a huge tambura and I was half the size of the tambura. So he said, आप क्या बोल रहे हैं, ये गाना सीखेगी? तो बोल रहा my पंडित जी saying, आप इनका राम क्या है तो सुन लीजिए, फिर आप बताएं. And he made me sing just a few notes, or I don't remember, Chota Khayal or something,
Mm.
of Rag Ram Keli. And he was, हाँ, बैठो बच्ची, बैठो बैठो, सिखाएंगे सिखाएंगे. So this is an incident which I can never forget, because
Yeah.
he was annoyed, and then he wanted to almost like throw me out. And
Mhm.
then he heard me, and then he made me sit. So that was Pandit S.S. Ratan Jankar.
That's a nice anecdote. Thanks
Yes.
for narrating it. So, what kind of music appeals to you both as a vocalist and as a listener?
I personally believe, like you also know, you were also a professor. When we are teaching at a honors level, or let us say, not postgraduate, not PhD, not MPhil, but a little lower,
Mhm.
then we make these arts, science, commerce, these
Mhm.
disciplinary distinctions, which later on become multidisciplinary. For me, all music, even folk ethno music, is classical, because it is the saregama padani.
Mhm.
It's nothing outside that octave.
Correct.
All, I mean, people say Bollywood songs. Oh, there are classical singers who, I'm basically a classical singer, of course I am.
Mm.
But I will say, I mean, so was Lata Mangeshkar a classical singer. So was Sandhya Mukherjee.
Mm.
So is Asha Bhosle. They are all classical singers. So how can you? That's the foundation. If you
Correct.
say that I'm making a building in the air,
Mhm.
no. Every foundational aspect of music is classical. It's only when you are learning that you say, well, this is semi-classical, this is classical, this is Dhrupad, that is Dhamar, that is Rabindra Sangeet, that is Bhajan. No, but when you are at a higher level, every surela thing, everything which is which is mellifluous to me, which is
Mhm.
not off tune, I can't take anything which is off tune. So
Mhm.
that is for every singer. I'm not a special one. So the tune goes into your system, Besura to nahi sun payenge. But everything except the rap, tap, pop, pep, and all that, without the basic,
Mhm.
without the without the melody in it, without melody and rhythm, I believe in one sentence, there cannot be any music. So if there
Correct.
is melody and rhythm,
Yeah.
whether it's Western or Eastern or Indian or ethno, everything for me as a listener,
Mm.
singer, I don't know how much I would be able to do justice to a Lata Mangeshkar song, which is so full of intricacies. But she was such a classical singer. So how can we say that classical is this and folk is that? No, everything is based on the foundation of classical music.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. Classical music is the foundation for every singer. And if you want to become a good singer, you should first take that training.
Yes.
Well, your poetry is described as flamboyant, tenacious style of hope and celebration. Do you agree with this assessment?
Well, tenacious, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it becomes flamboyant in the sense that a butterfly is flamboyant, because I'm always restless to fly,
Mm-hmm.
So when I go deep into the poetic realm, and generally it happens in the middle of the night, most of the times, my friends say, how do you go on writing and writing and writing? When do you write? I say, I don't know. I write in the middle of the night, maybe at 4 a.m. also. Most of the times it happens. So in that sense, it's very uh, full of liberty.
Mm-hmm.
In taking the liberty, of course, I will still say, if you take liberties, like in the sphere of music, also in the sphere of poetry, one needs to read good poetry to be a good poet. One needs to hear good music to
Mhm.
be a good singer. And I have seen that the impact of good poetry is really good.
So, what, according to you, is poetry, and what are the similarities between poetry and classical music?
And music, I would say, classical, of course.
Mhm.
In any case, I said the foundation is always classical. Even literature, classical literature, we cannot do without Shakespeare, Homer, or Ramayana or Mahabharata. Everything is, I mean, classical has, we have to go
That's
back
the
to our,
benchmarking, yeah.
yeah, because we have to, you see, both poetry and music, I say one thing is very common in the two. There are two sides of the same coin, and that is melody and rhythm.
Mhm.
You cannot have poetry, good poetry,
Mhm.
without melody and rhythm. You cannot have good music without, that's why I say, rap tap. I don't want to belittle anyone. Maybe if somebody finds joy in whatever one finds joy in, we are nobody to be judgmental.
Mhm.
But basic things are that melody and rhythm, and to a large extent, in the sense of flamboyance, rhapsody, the rapture.
Mhm.
If the rapture captures you, if the rapture captures you, you will come out with your best. So that will be the best kind of poetry, that will the best of your music, that will be the best, even a spontaneous talk or a lecture. I mean, you have to be enthused from
Mhm.
inside, it has to come from inside. See, when Wordsworth says, you're a professor of English, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, what does it mean? But then some people uh, take wrong connotations out of it. Spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings does not mean that you go on scribbling, and you don't edit, and you don't see where's
Mm.
the rhythm, where's the melody. You don't see anything, you don't count them. I mean, you have to edit. I mean, there will be a first draft, there will be a second
That's right.
draft, but the first flow, the first flush of emotions will
Mhm.
always bring out the best, because it's coming from the, I think it's a very wonderful integration. Poetry is the wonderful integration of the heart, the mind, the vision, and the soul. What Wordsworth calls the feeling intellect.
Mhm.
Not just intellect, not just feeling, but the feeling intellect.
Yeah, so rhythm and melody, you can say that they are not mere aesthetic choices, but they animate the poem with emotion and meaning.
Yes, you're very right.
Yeah.
They sort of animate the poem. They sort of make it more meaningful and fruitful
Mm.
with that rhythm. By rhythm, I don't mean rhyme. I mean the inner rhythm of the poem, not tat 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 tarara, tat tat tat. Well, we may use tat 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 tarara. That will be a rhymed poem. But these days, the rhymed poems are also there. Blank verse, free verse is there. But then free verse also has rhythm. It must have inner rhythm and the inner melody.
Yeah, do you think melody is important in poetry or one can do without it as well?
I don't think, according to me, that inner, you know, effusiveness,
Mm.
which is the pivotal point of melody, the rapture, the effusive, the effusion,
Mhm.
the resonance also, the reverberation. That's musical. That's total melody. That's total melody. Unless I'm doing some rap tap sap, I don't know. I'm not very much, I don't want to speak about something which doesn't appeal to me or doesn't, well, I'm not aware of. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
ignorant in that sense. But I feel that genuine poetry has to have effusiveness, it has to have resonance, it has to have melody, it has to have rhythm,
Inner rhythm, yeah,
in inner rhythm, not rhyme, but inner rhythm. Yeah.
definitely. You give radio programs too. What do you think about radio as a medium, especially in a TV dominated culture?
Yeah. This is a question which is very important. You see, today it's not just TV dominated. We are in the, like I'm talking to you, and it's a digital world and all. I do agree that technology has given us both the visual and the audio, because radio is not visual. But then I think, sometimes, for me, it may not be for everyone. If there is music which I want to close my, it often happens, you want to close your eyes and get into the soul of the music, then uh, uh, minus video, minus the visual, the sound itself can picturize. One thing which I forgot to say is that
Mm.
real poetry is verbal picturization. I mean, without any painting, we are painting with words.
I
We
agree.
are, I mean, when a poem is written, if the reader cannot visualize a painting, a verbal painting,
Mhm.
or a word picture, then that's not a poem. So just like that, if music is being played in the radio or in the tape recorder or wherever where the visual content is not there, you can still close your eyes and visualize, because imagination, a very sharp imagination, can give you that visualization.
That's true. Images should be so powerful.
So
That-
powerful.
Yeah, there should be it's kind of painting should appear on our mental landscape. We should be
Yes,
able to
yes,
visualize it.
yes. That's visualization, because creative people are always imaginative.
True.
So it has to be there,
Mhm.
the visualization will be there. If it's good poetry and if it's a good
Yeah,
song,
definitely.
it has to see one thing, in this place, in this context. I just want to say one thing. There are many singers and there are many poets, and this
Mhm.
is very important to me. It bothers me a lot. I want to share this with everyone.
Mhm.
There are some musicians, I mean vocalists, who are technically perfect to the T,
Mhm.
but when they sing, it is not touching your heart.
Mm.
And similarly, in poetry also, they make it so cerebral with craftsmanship, because
Yeah.
poetry is not just craftsmanship, it is art of the highest order. Because
Mm.
poetry is the genesis of literary expression. We never had prose before the 17th century. So poetry is from time immemorial. That's the first literary expression of man.
Mm.
So if poetry does not touch your heart, or music does not touch your heart, no matter how cerebrally correct you may be, or technically correct you may be,
Mhm.
it cannot move. It should be able to move rocks and stones.
Mhm.
Simple.
Yes, it should not be dry intellectual stuff, which doesn't appeal to your heart or to your feelings.
Yeah, because some
To
people
move
think,
you.
yeah, no, because some people nowadays, I feel, they think that the more unintelligible they'll make it,
I
the
know.
better a poet. Why should you make it unintelligible? That means you're using some, you know, uh, fake, something which is fake, which is not genuine.
Mhm.
So in the art, capital A-R-T, in the realm of art, there's nothing fake. It's all genuine. It's all genuine.
So, what are your takeaways? You have been into cultural studies. So, what are your takeaways from the field of cultural studies? It's an exciting interdisciplinary field.
Yes. See, we have the three arts, liberal arts as humanities, which literature almost covers the entire span of film studies, culture studies,
Mm.
all that is the umbrella term. And when we do go into culture, we take up more of our Indian heritage. So we have to take up, for example, Bharata's Natya Shastra,
Mhm.
the Navarasa. Now, in the Western Occidental field, there's nothing called Navarasa, though they may have equivalents, but the equivalency is not, I don't think it's very perfect, because I don't want to sound like, as if, because every culture has its beauty, every culture has its, That's why we believe in multiculturalism. But when we talk of cultural studies, we do in the universities of India focus more on the Indian arts which are time immemorial. We are a timeless civilization. Whether we like it or not, all over the world, we are known as the Sanatan people who are into the eternality of man, everything that is eternal, whether it's the Vedas, whether it's the zero, or whether it's the Sam Veda, which brought music into our lives. So the resonance, so everything comes from, in a certain way, Indian antiquity. But still, I will want to say there are so many other cultures which have their own, what should I say, specialities, which can be integrated.
Mhm.
But generally, in Indian universities, we do talk more about Indian culture, the performing arts. We do talk about the very varied forms of the Navarasas in the dances, in the songs. We have varied, Indian music. My God, it's like, I mean, so many genres. I mean, you start from classical khayal to Vilambit to Drupad to Tamar to Kirtan to Bhajan to film song to, I don't know, it goes on and on, folklore of Rajasthan, and so much of it
Mhm.
is, you know, and then when exactly now I'm not being able to cite those examples in my music classes abroad, I used to try to find these, especially in USA and all, the equivalences, it makes them easier to learn in musicology classes, you know. So there are equivalences because in any case, saregama pa dhani is do re mi fa sol la ti. That's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. Only thing is there are differences, which are another arena. So that, and I remember one more incident. Like I'm just off my. I'm speaking from what I can remember. I used to do a special course on Tagore's English translation of Kabir's bhajans and dohas, songs, 100 songs of Kabir. It's done by Rabindranath Tagore, English. The
Ah,
English yeah, it's done by, the
Tagore.
English is done by Tagore. So suddenly, I think it was one of the MA second year or MPhil, I don't remember. One of those very senior classes of 100 songs of Kabir, English translation by Rabindranath Tagore. Suddenly, I found
Mhm.
generally in those classes, as you know already, MA MPhil classes would have about 25, maximum 30.
Hmm.
Suddenly, I found, it's overbrimming with students, full, some are standing. I said, my God, what has happened? And then I start studying. I start my class and all. And then I call one of them, she was one of those, they were very happy with me, but they were also a little afraid of me, some of them. Some of them who did not study. Some of them who did study were not afraid of me. They would have popcorn with me outside the classroom, and some also see movies. Youngsters have been my greatest friends, my students. So I saw them cluttering in the class. I said, "What happened?" I called one of them. She said, "Ma'am, please don't, scold us." I said, "Why should I scold? I'm happy, but why? I mean, I can see that it is not the original class. There are many more who have come in." I said, "Ma'am, because while teaching Tagore's English translation, once in a while you sing 2, 3 lines of Kabir's bhajan, and people want to hear
Okay,
it."
so they were more interested in Kabir's bhajan.
They were not more interested, but maybe they were, they were interested in my lectures also always, in
Mhm.
my English lectures. But then somebody must have told them, English lecture ke saath something else is also happening there. Why don't you go and see? So something, just casually like that.
Yeah,
So there's a lot
students
of
always
affinity.
prefer some sprinkling of Hindi or some other regional language, so they feel
That
more
that's Hindi.
connected, more connected with the teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, and no, music is something which never happens in an English classroom unless one is singing Elvis Presley or something like that. which I never did. So anyway, Kabir's bhajan. So once in a while, just to make them understand the phraseology and the English translation, how it. Even I recently I was doing Tagore in Presidency, now Presidency University, Kolkata. Tagore's songs and how they correlate with his poetry. It's very interesting. It needs a whole lot of classes. So I was doing Tagore. Presidency invited me just just this July to 2023.
Hmm.
So Tagore's Rabindra Sangeet and how his ragas, his Indian classical compositions of Rabindra Sangeet,
Hmm.
and how they tally with the poetic phraseology that he uses.
Okay.
How, yeah. So that was quite an interesting thing, and I'm happy that they invited me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great. Well, you delivered a lecture on World Women Environment at Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Yeah.
at World Fulbrighters Conference in 1999, where you were the only Indian Fulbrighter representing India among scholars from 100 countries. So,
Yes.
what was the main focus of your presentation?
It was a special invitation by President Bill Clinton himself, because,
Wow.
as you know, the Senator Fulbright was the person of America who started this international huge thing called Fulbright
Mhm.
Scholarship, which is known to be the best in the international league.
Mhm.
So he invited 100 countries and 100 scholars from 100 countries, and gave us such a treat, staying 15 days at Washington, D.C., 50 yards from the White House.
Sorry?
uh, 50 yards from the White House, this Washington
Oh, that
Plaza.
close. Mhm.
Yeah, Washington Plaza Hotel was just 50 yards from the White House. And I remember that it was on global climate change, but I was the only person who spoke about ecofeminism,
Wow.
world women and environment, and how women, world and environment are interconnected, very very much like blood sisters or something like that, that you cannot do without women. If you talk about Mother Earth or women, the environment, and generally you see the ravagers, the people who plunder nature, are also the people who are the rapists, let us say, the
Mhm.
ravagers of the society,
Womanhood.
which we call patriarchic society. So patriarchy is very much another word for ravaging of nature, you know, world, women, and environment. And I selected a, I became very pally with Senator Fulbright's wife, who was Harriet Fulbright. And she obviously was very close to President Bill Clinton. So there were these round tables of six for dinner.
Mhm.
So I told Madam Fulbright, Madam, I would like to sit at this table. You will be there, and President will be there. So she had already met me 2 months before that in Florida University, in Gainesville. So
Mhm.
he said, "Oh yes, Laksmisree, of course, I know you so well. You're wearing such a pretty sari." That was the first thing she said. And of course, with such pretty sari, such a pretty lady, you must be sitting here. And lo and behold, what happened?
Mhm.
This part of the story I can't forget.
Mhm.
At the nick of the hour, we were told that there's a NATO bombing in 1999, and
Oh,
President Bill Clinton was immediately removed to Camp David.
oh,
Everybody else was there at that table, but President Bill Clinton never came because he was removed for that NATO bombing. He was removed immediately to Camp David. That
Mhm.
was one
You
thing which,
missed the
but
wonderful opportunity.
but it was 15 days of real. I mean, they took us to the White House. They
Mhm.
gave us such great treatment. It is just. So it's good. I forgot about it. I don't know. I never will forget about it. But you reminded me, so thank you very much.
Yeah, I
Uh,
found that very
y-
interesting. So I thought, let me ask you
you are
to
a great
share.
anchor. My God, you're digging up everything. So actually, that is what a moderator has to be like, you know.
I was thinking because it was quite old an
Yeah.
experience, whether I should
Yes.
ask you also. But
25
you well
years.
remember the finer details.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, that was really very good. Excellent.
Yeah, that's a unique opportunity.
Unique.
And
I have that
what you
photograph of,
told just now makes it all the more unique.
yeah, I have
Timing
the
is what
photograph, but it is very faded now. I have to make another photograph. 100 people sitting.
I see.
It's written Fulbright. It's just there on my wall.
Mhm.
But it's faded. It's 25 years. I was quite young, and I was wearing a katha stitch sari, I remember, a pure silk maroon with gold. And I remember Madam Fulbright saying, "Yes, yes, of course, you must sit here." And then,
What's more important is that that experience is etched
yes,
in your mind, and that
yes,
transforms you as a, person
person,
also.
yes,
You
yes,
are
very
a
well,
lot changed, and you are an
yes,
improved version after such
yes.
kind of
Interactions,
experiences. Yeah,
interactions,
life
because I was,
changing. Yeah, life
yeah,
changing experiences and interactions.
absolutely, absolutely. Because I interacted with so many people over 15 days from so many countries, from so
Mhm.
many cultures. So that exposure, that cultural exposure was definitely what you say.
Mm.
It really transformed me. Yes,
Yeah.
true,
I
true.
totally believe in this view, actually.
Yes, yes,
Well, to move ahead, please tell us more about your latest books, Blue Phoenix and Other Poems, and Dust
yes.
Decked Rainbow Quilts.
Well, I must say this Blue Phoenix, which was written throughout 2022, uh, it is a book which gives a message of renewal or after strife,
Yeah, the
just like
title
the
itself
phoenix. Yeah,
suggests Phoenix.
phoenix. And the famous painter Lata Prem Sakhya, who's also a poet,
Mhm.
she's done this painting. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes.
It's a woman phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
She's done
Female,
such a
yeah.
she did a canvas for me, and it's so close to my heart. But it's close to my heart for another reason.
Mm.
I went through the worst phase of my life in 2022, and my dear one was afflicted in a horrible manner.
Mhm.
And I was writing poems morning, evening. It was just a survival strategy.
Yeah.
So, from this book, I will just read the title poem, Blue Phoenix. That should do. No more poems, because this is about survival. It is about renewal, not to give up hope, never to surrender,
Mhm.
never to be vanquished, despite the greatest strife that one can have. I cannot describe it. I do not wish to describe it. I do not ever, I think, hope, and pray that such a phase never comes to me or to anyone to fight it out. But I did fight it out. God was with me, hope was with me, faith was with me, prayers were with me, and the healing energy was with me. So I wrote the Blue Phoenix, and so this book is very close to my heart.
Mhm.
So I'll just read the Blue Phoenix, which
Please go
is
ahead.
again a lesson for understanding life and to go ahead despite the worst.
Mhm. I completely empathize with you and the horrors that you faced in your life. I hope your daughter is well now.
Yes, I believe so.
I pray for her, for
Yeah.
you, for your family.
Yeah, she's my only child, and she's my everything.
Mhm.
So it's called Blue Phoenix. I rise and rise from the ashes, not as dust motes, not as dry leaves, not as scattered flakes,
Mhm.
but as a phoenix turned eagle, with my fervent pain to foment the wilted spirit to a rising star.
Mhm.
The cinders trampled, the embers crushed into the riotous flowing volcano. My eruption, my eruption, my liberty.
Mhm.
Ether of my torment, river of my wrenched, aching life, rumbling along jagged rocks in crying ebullience into the sea.
Mhm.
The fiery splendor ignites my feverish, flapping wings in the inferno,
Mhm.
inflates the inferno, inflates my flight tenfold with flames of searing agony, with flames of searing agony, with raging tongues of inspiring distress, till I fly across the empyrean unbound, throbbing pinions of anguish, limitless expansive trauma, my mobilizing freedom, blooming crackers of torpedo, soaring to the utmost crescendo as I rise and rise and rise in soaring marvel with my red wings of fire and blood, heaving in cobalt and vermilion till I become the bird of blue lava.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Very inspiring poem, full of hope. We wish you all the success for your upcoming projects.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, I believe that our pens, our pens and our voices, they are such binding forces, And there's nothing in the world, of course, the world is so conflict ridden today. I've written so many poems on war and peace and, everything that, turns us inside out, And yet, we look for peace, we look for panacea. And poetry is the only poetry and music. I cannot survive, I can never survive without poetry and music because I think if the world could understand a little more today, it
Mhm.
is so difficult, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Manipur, it's a different world. We all pray and we all are in this camaraderie. I think poetic camaraderie is brilliant. I mean, it's not just brilliant, it's so humane. It's so full of love and binding.
Poetry can well be called a panacea.
Panacea. Of
Yeah,
course, it's a panacea.
because it helps. It's quite a stress buster. It helps you vent out your feelings.
Yes, 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 of course.
Yeah. It heals you
Definitely.
gradually. Yeah.
It's a, I can vouch, it's a healing.
Cleanses you. So
Yeah.
many functions it plays.
It's a stress buster, as you
Yeah.
said,
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a great stress buster. And of course, I always say this that to write a good poetry or to sing,
Cathartic, what you call.
yes, it's like we also read good poetry. We have to read, This caring and sharing should go on. I hope that the world becomes a better world as it always was.
I
So
join you in wishing the same.
yes,
The
and
world
wishing
should
you
become a better place to live in.
absolutely, something beautiful like you and your the way you're dressed.
Oh,
I I have never understood in my whole life. And I don't want to understand, to be very frank. What are negative emotions? People say women have it, men don't have it so much. I say, I don't know about men or women or anyone. How can there be any? I don't know how to feel a negative emotion. Anything which is beautiful for me is like John Keats. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all he know on earth
Yeah,
and
Keats.
all he
Yeah,
need to know.
that's true. Ode to Creation Urn, I think.
Uh,
The last
yes,
lines of
yeah,
Ode to
yeah.
Creation Urn
Ode
by
to a
Keats.
Grecian.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
that's a lovely poem.
That's a lovely poem. All his odes. All his odes are. My PhD, of course, was on John Keats.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah. So poetry has always been with me.
Mhm.
Poetry is.
Well, we have reached the end of this conversation. Very interesting, very inspiring one. In the end, I would like to ask you what your advice to young writers.
Yes. I think I will mention it once again. I think to write, the first thing that we learned when we were singing or writing poetry, as I said again, please read the masters. Not just the masters, even the contemporary eminent poets.
Hmm.
Whether you want to read a Kamala Das or you want to read a Jayant Mahapatra, or even Keki Daruwala, who thankfully is still around us. And also, even going back, what T.S. Eliot said in his Tradition and the Individual Talent. He said that no poets, whoever we are, we do not exist in a vacuum. There is a poetic consciousness, just like a racial consciousness, which flows through the ages like a river.
Mhm.
And we are there. We should, to young writers, we should keep bathing in that river. And if we keep bathing in that river, we will also have, more water and more liquescence and more,
Beautifully said. Beautifully
yeah,
said.
you know to give it to the world. We have to take it also, from the Ganga of poetry. And we know what the Ganga, even all young writers also know what exactly is this river of poetry, the Ganga of
Mhm.
poetry. Why don't we take a bath? Why don't we really cleanse ourselves and take this great healing ablutions from the Ganga? And then, of course, poetry will blossom, definitely, like music.
Yeah, these
It
are
has.
very valid observations, and coming from such an accomplished artist like you, they are all the more inspiring,
Thank you.
valuable for the audience.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. It was really a pleasure seeing you, seeing Sunil Bhai after such a long time. And I think we will meet soon. Let us hope to. And let us keep sharing and caring with poetry and literature. There could not be, as you said, a better, a more healing energy and panacea than poetry.
Mhm.
Definitely.
That's
It's
I
true.
appreciate your dedication towards poetry, towards music. You are an accomplished vocalist too.
Thank you.
Conversation with you was very enriching, very enlightening. So once again, I thank you for your quality time. So thanks, Dr. Banerjee. Thank you, viewers. Next week, we will be back with yet another distinguished guest. Till then, bye bye.
Bye bye. It
Bye.
was very enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Same here.